Chapter 17. It was their first night at the theme park, and Dane and Allie were still recovering from a taxing battle that left them both debilitated. This was on top of the exhausting hike and spending 2 days in the woods with very little food and water. They were in no condition to hike back to camp, especially considering they had found nearly everything they needed at the park. It made more sense for them to stay put, rest up and heal, and hope the group would find them. Fortunately, after doing some exploring, they found plenty of food, water, clothing, medicine, weapons, and shelter. Frozen microwavable dinners had never looked so appealing. The two ate and kept conversation to a minimum. Now that it was just them, it was a bit awkward. They hardly knew each other, and were forced into a completely absurd scenario. Allie mostly kept her head down and focused on her food. Dane made a few attempts at conversation, but was having trouble breaking down her barriers. "How's your food?" he asked. "I've had better." After a satisfying dinner, the two settled in for the night. They moved the bodies and cleaned up a bit, since they weren't sure how long they would call this place home. Dane went outside and lit a few logs in the fire pit. Eventually, they found themselves sitting around the campfire, watching the stars. The rain had subsided, but the grounds were still wet. "You want me to get you a blanket?" Dane offered. "Sure, that would be great. Thanks." As much as Dane wanted to have some romantic spark to develop between him and Allie, she wasn't the flirtatious type, so it was hard to get a read on her. He thought it would be best not to pursue anything with her. Most of the time, Allie was stone-faced and emotionless. In all the time Dane had spent with her, he rarely saw her smile, tell a joke, or let her guard down. Nevertheless, they had been through an ordeal together, and their bond was growing stronger. "So, ever kill anyone before?" Dane asked. "That's what you want to talk about?" "I don't know. Is there something else you prefer talking about? You want to know why my girlfriend left me?" "I can pretty much guess." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Are you aware of how you come across?" "Charming? Smart? Heroic?" "I would say more like annoying, intense, and overbearing." "Dang! And here I thought I saved your life today, twice." "You did, and I'm forever grateful. You have some great qualities, and I'm not trying to take anything away from you. But as an MMA fighter, I look at everything in terms of deficiencies, and then work hard to correct those deficiencies." "What do you mean?" "In mixed martial arts, we need to be well-rounded, right? We need to be good at striking, grappling, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and so on. We need to have good strength and conditioning, maintain a proper diet, make weight, align with a strong team of training partners and coaches, and strategize a game plan for each opponent. Perhaps most importantly is our mind. We need self-belief, courage, and heart. Then there's a whole other marketing and business component to it, which requires a completely different list of skills from being personable and charismatic. My point is, there are a lot of different elements that go into becoming a world-class fighter." "All right." "So think of all these different aspects as buckets, with varying degrees of fullness. Some fighters have full jiu-jitsu and wrestling buckets, but their striking and cardio buckets are underserved. Or some may be excellent strikers, but don't work on their ground game." "Okay, so what does this have to do with me?" Dane asked. "I'm getting to that. To be a complete fighter, you must work hard to fill up as many buckets as you can, without overtraining, wearing down your body, peaking too soon, and getting injured. But all these elements are leaky buckets, so if you neglect one for too long, it will drain, and your skills in that area will diminish. So you must divide your time to figure out which buckets you're going to fill, how often, how much, when, and so on. It's a really delicate balancing game. The best fighters in the world have really full buckets in every category. The worst have mostly empty buckets. Okay. My point is this. This metaphor doesn't just apply to fighters. It applies to life in general. Each of our personalities are made up of different buckets. We have kindness buckets, intelligence buckets, various emotional buckets, bravery, honesty, integrity. Life is all about filling up your buckets and becoming as complete a person as possible. To be the best person you possibly can. With you, I point out your deficiencies so you know what to work on. You have holes in your game, and I'm ultimately helping you, not tearing you down. I understand, and I just want to point out that was the most I've ever heard you speak before. Perhaps your tough girl persona bucket is getting low. Allie showed a rare smile and said, I'm not at my best right now. Being tough is not better than being sweet and kind. Kindness isn't a weakness, it's a strength. People who are kind build trust and develop deeper relationships with people and in this world. Having strong relationships is a more advantageous asset than being tough. Look no further than our current situation. None of us are likely to survive on our own for too long, but there's strength in numbers. That's a very different mentality than you may be used to. Fighting is a very solo endeavor. Granted, you have coaches and teammates, but you're the only one in that cage. But in life, this is a team sport. Perhaps you're right, Allie said. I need to learn to trust more and open up to people. Do you have a boyfriend? No. I always saw them as a distraction. Now that you're not fighting, have you thought about what your next stage of your life will be like? Do you want to get married one day? I never really thought about it. I guess if the right person came along, I'd be open to it. But with the situation I'm in now, who knows? What about kids? Have you given any thought to that? Wow, you're getting really personal. This is my strength. I get people to open up and trust me. Sharing personal details with each other is one of the ways people connect with each other. I can tell you about me. My girlfriend didn't want kids, but I did. She thought the future was too uncertain and that bringing a child into this mess was irresponsible and selfish. Next thing I know, she tells me she's pregnant and then breaks up with me. That doesn't make any sense. Why did she break up with you after becoming pregnant? I'm not sure. Did you ask her? Plenty of times. So what did she say? She kept saying that she doesn't want to be with me anymore. Forgive me for asking, but I know what you're going to ask, and yes, the baby is mine. I made her take a DNA test. I'm not sure what to tell you, Allie said. Maybe it's not that she didn't want to have kids. She just didn't want to have kids with me. So what are you going to do? I don't know. What can I do? You want my advice? As for the relationship, let that go. That's a dead end. You should focus 100% of your energy on being in your child's life, plain and simple. What about me and my happiness? Don't I have a right to find love? Do whatever you want with that. All I'm saying is you have a responsibility whether you planned it or not. So, unless you're dead or in prison, there should be no excuse. Well, I may not be dead or in prison yet, but either of those options seems likely given the trajectory I'm on. I've never told this to anyone, Allie said, still a little bashful about sharing personal details with someone she hardly knows. But I've always dreamed of having a daughter, giving her all the wisdom and things I never had growing up, but without all the baggage. I fight because I have to. But I never want my daughter to be in that situation. I want to provide a better life for her. But who knows if that'll ever happen now.